Welcome to The Way, an independent Christian church located in Ocala, Florida. Thank you for joining us for today's devotional from Elder Russ Gemberling.
When I was working, the company that I worked for required yearly certification for some of the positions I was qualified to work on, and I have become a very good test taker. There were times when I could determine the correct answer by eliminating the wrong answers, and allowed me to get the correct one and pass the test. God puts people to a test when he wants to determine the status of their heart. In 1 Samuel 28, King Saul failed a test given by God, and specifically in verse 17, the Lord has done just what he said he would. He has torn the kingdom from you and given it to your rival, David. There are some examples in Scripture of testing that people endured. First, of course, is Saul. Saul spent most of his life as king trying to prevent others from getting what he had. Saul never got to the place with God in which he was a grateful recipient of God's goodness to him. Saul was a religious controller. This controller led to the disobedience and ultimately being rejected by God because Saul no longer was a vessel God could use. Jesus is another example because he was betrayed and hurt deeply when Judas, a trusted follower, betrayed him. Despite knowing this was going to happen, Jesus responded by washing Judas's feet. Every anointed person will have a Judas experience at one time or another. God watches us to see how we would respond to this test. Will we take up an offense? Will we retaliate? This is one of the most difficult tests to pass. Jesus also had his power tested. When Jesus was tempted by Satan, he could have used his power to remove himself from this difficult situation. Has God allowed you to have power and influence over people or a specific person? How do you respond? Do you seek more power over that person, or do you follow the example of Christ by becoming a servant leader? We must be aware when we are being tested. You can be confident that each one of these tests will be thrown your way if God calls you for his purpose. Will you pass these tests? Ask for God's grace today to walk through these tests victoriously.